The Tampa Bay Lightning have spent the last decade as the class of the NHL. Between 2014 and 2023, the Lightning won the most regular season games and the most playoff games in the league. They appeared in the Stanley Cup Final 4 times, winning the Cup back-to-back in 2020 and 2021. During this era, Lightning teams have featured a wealth of stars, including Steven Stamkos, Victor Hedman, Nikita Kucherov, and Andrei Vasilevsky. Things have not always been so rosy. I'm Nolan from Lightning Review. Like this video and subscribe. Roll the calendar back to the late 1990s and the Lightning were in shambles. The 1992 expansion era teams were scrappy and competitive, with the team earning the franchise's first playoff appearance in 1996. But the team took a big step backwards the following year. Star goaltender Darren Pupa's back issues would limit him to only 6 games. Center John Cullen played part of the year with flu-like symptoms before being diagnosed with the cancer that would end his hockey career. Top center Brian Bradley, who led the team in scoring in their first 4 seasons, missed significant time with a wrist injury and finished 11th on the team in scoring. The Lightning, which had snuck into the playoffs on the final day of the previous season, now missed the cutoff by 14 points. A bright spot in the 96-97 season was the 35-goal performance of winger Dino Ciccarelli, who was acquired in a trade from Detroit. Ciccarelli had already been in the league for 17 seasons at that point, scoring for the Minnesota North Stars, Washington Capitals, and Detroit Red Wings, but he still hadn't won a Stanley Cup. It wasn't easy for Lightning general manager Phil Esposito to convince Ciccarelli to come to Tampa Bay. The Red Wings had just been to the Stanley Cup Final, and Ciccarelli was not interested in leaving for a team that he didn't view as a contender. His fiery temperament would help the team on the ice, but would also lead to a feud the following season that would play out in the media and mark a low point for the franchise. As bad as things were in 96-97, they were about to get much worse. The front office bungled the re-signing of restricted free agent Chris Gratton, losing him to Philadelphia without finding a center to replace him. Going into the 97-98 season, Esposito, who was hamstrung with an embarrassingly low payroll by the team's absentee ownership group, struggled to ice a competitive roster, and disaster was looming. Only 14 games into the season, Brian Bradley, a 2-time All-Star and the team's leader in nearly every offensive category, would be injured in a game against the Los Angeles Kings. It was a concussion, and although nobody knew it at the time, it would end Bradley's career. After losing Gratton to Philadelphia, John Cullen to cancer treatment, and Bradley to a concussion, the Lightning were hopelessly underpowered at center, and losses quickly began to pile up. Esposito replaced head coach Terry Crisp with Jacques Demers, but the losing continued. The idea of trading for a high-priced center to solve the situation was out of the question. Kokusai Green, the team's owners, were trying to sell and wanted to cut payroll, not add. In December of 1997, with the team in last place, Forbes magazine published a report stating that Tampa Bay was in the worst financial state of any team in North American professional sport. The stress was adding up. Brian Bradley was dealing with concussion symptoms, including nausea and severe headaches. But because the medical science of concussions was not advanced as it is now, Bradley was cleared by doctors to return. He refused, saying he wouldn't be back until his headaches were gone. His teammates, frustrated by mounting losses and embarrassing defeats, began to talk among themselves about Brian's injuries. After a 3-0 loss to the Dallas Stars, Ciccarelli told reporters that the team needed help at center, and that one was missing because he didn't want to play. Bradley was furious, calling Ciccarelli a gutless little puke and backstabber, claiming he would never play on the same team with him again. "I don't care what the guys say. This is a serious injury I'm dealing with. Until they go through it, they won't understand. I'm talking about more than hockey here. This is my life. You don't mess around with head injuries." Ciccarelli was unapologetic about his remarks. "I don't want to get into a pissing match with Brian Bradley. I like Brian Bradley. I think I'm saying what needed to be said. I just want to know what's going on." Bradley was also still dealing with the nagging wrist injury and went to New York to see a specialist, further confusing his Lightning teammates about his injury status. Lightning defenseman Jamie Huscroft defended Ciccarelli's remarks, commenting, "We want to know what's happening. We all know how serious head injuries are. Then we heard he was coming back and that he was cleared to play. All of a sudden it's his wrist. What's that? That's what we want to know." Paul Isabart agreed. A lot of what Ciccarelli said was out of frustration, and let's face it, we're all frustrated with the way we've been playing. We miss him badly, without question. We need him. Bradley remained sidelined. Ciccarelli, fed up with the losing, convinced Esposito to trade him, and in January he was sent to the Florida Panthers. The Lightning would end that year with the worst record in the league. The Panthers would finish second last. Ciccarelli would play one more season for the Panthers, but would injure his back after scoring 7 points in 14 games. The same totals Brian Bradley had for the Lightning the year before. Bradley would not be cleared for years, and when he was 36 years old, he decided to retire instead of returning, and still works with the Lightning in a community relations role. Ciccarelli would be inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2010. The two players eventually mended fences. "I've talked to Dino since then, and he's apologized to me," Bradley said in a 2009 interview. "It was frustrating because I had to deal with the concussion injury, the headaches, then trying to work out and getting sick. To have someone say something like, 'Our best player isn't here because he doesn't want to play,' I took it right to heart." The Lightning would finally find a center to replace Brian Bradley at the 1998 draft when they selected Vincent Lecavalier first overall with a pick originally belonging to the Florida Panthers. If you like this story, please give it a like and subscribe so you can see more. I'm Nolan from Lightning Review. Go Bolts!